All right. Looks like I haven't. Also, if you need anything, probably don't ping me during the presentation because I cannot see it. You can ping the host if you have any issue or anything. So right now, looks like we have more people joining. 18 people, 16 attendees, 18 people in total. Minimize this. I'm going to get started because we have an hour and there are a lot of content in the session. Hopefully, I can get a few minutes at the end to allow you to either raise some questions through phone or through chat box. So my name is Tony Shen, and I work for King, which actually we just merged with NTT Data. And the presentation today is called Systematic Cloud Assessment and Roadmap Mapping. And basically, I'm going to talk about the methodical approach, how we can look at the cloud computing, the opportunity, and a lot of organizations are interested in adopting this particular technology, but in the industry, we are short of a methodical approach. How do we view the suitability? How do we define the systematic roadmap from where we are to the next level? So I'm going to talk about some best practices and anti-patterns we got in our engagement with different organizations. So this page gives you a very high-level outline. As you can see, we're going to talk about the landscape to start with, and then we will talk about the adoption strategy in terms of how we can view different opportunities. How do we compare the contrast, the pros and cons. And next, we're going to introduce the very systematic lifecycle framework. I'm going to talk about this model to look at the cloud technology from end to end. And with that, we're going to introduce some tools that implement this particular framework. In particular, in this today's session, I'm going to talk about the assessment tool, code. Then I'm going to show you some techniques and artifacts used in this method, as well as some techniques, different means to assess cloud in a very systematic, comprehensive fashion. And I'm going to show you some examples, code in action. Those are the real-world examples which demonstrate the key capabilities of this method. And I'm going to wrap up with a summary, and I'm going to give you a few minutes for any questions. First, let's take a look at the cloud landscape. There are a lot of different definitions about cloud computing. As a matter of fact, from all our organizations, we've been engaged in different activities where we have our own definition of cloud. But just for the sake of this presentation, I quoted the definition from NIST. I think it's a pretty good work. They've been doing this for several versions. So basically, they prescribe this as sort of like a computing paradigm, which enables the network access to a shared pool of encryption computing resources. So the key here is the characteristics. If you look at the bottom here, it's the self-service, on-demand. As a matter of fact, for scalability perspective, rapid elasticity. So there's 5 key characteristics or attributes for cloud. In particular, from delivery perspective, we emphasize software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. And I'm going to talk about a maturity model later on and along with these 3 dimensions. Next, I'd like to take a look at the Gartner called the Hypercircle. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the 2007 Hypercircle, cloud computing was not in the chart. And this one is 2008. As you can see, cloud is just suddenly entity stage 1, which is technology trigger. The following year, 2009, and the cloud is over here, and it goes phenomenal growth, entering the peak of inflated expectations. And this is last year, and Gartner actually break cloud into 2 pieces. Cloud computing is still here in stage 2, but we break the private cloud into a separate entity and you can see its entity sort of like on the border of stage 1 and stage 2. So you can see in the past 3 or 4 years, it is a phenomenal growth and actually changed a lot in terms of entering. Traditionally, technology in hypercircle, it moves slowly, but in this particular case, it changes a lot. And on this chart, again, this is from Gartner, and they basically position top 10 strategic technologies every year. And cloud computing was the #1 last year, and it's no surprise this year it is again the first most important strategic technologies among the top 10. On the other hand, with these things, there are a lot of challenges from both provider side and also from the consumer viewpoint. So there's some questions here. Basically, what is cloud computing that is relevant to our organization? What kind of things should we consider? What kind of things should we worry about? And what options we have? So these questions, we try to address these questions in our assessment. As a matter of fact, for this session, we're not going to address all of these, but we're going to target some of the key questions, concerns, when we, in our engagement with different clients, try to provide a very useful, helpful means to address these issues and provide answers. So now the question is, how do we cloudify? And in our engagement, we advocate systematic, very methodical approach. So basically, we take a look at the current state of affairs. Basically, if we look at the cloud paradigm, if you see the Gartner hype circle, it is maturing, it is evolving. But on the other hand, there are a lot of things in terms of the cloud maturity. There are a lot of ad hoc activities in terms of openness. A lot of product solutions are closed source, and they are not open. They are pretty much product-driven, product-dependent. And also, from standards perspective, we are in a very early stage in terms of interoperability and interoperation. So we lack of a discipline approach, and as a matter of fact, lack of discipline, very cross-disciplinary method. So we're looking for, as the industry, we're looking for a very comprehensive approach, which will guide us. How do we look at this whole paradigm? How do we define the entry point? And how do we get it started? This is a summary of a couple of reports I pulled from, these guys put it here. One is called the Research Challenges for Enterprise Cloud Computing, and the second one is the Research Agenda Cloud Technologies. They published these two reports last year. It's very interesting conclusion from them. And according to them, there's no mature technique or toolkit so far available in the market. And secondly, they did several surveys about the different approaches, methods used by major vendors and also key research groups. And their conclusion is they are not open, they are biased. So you can see we have showstoppers, we have gaps among these things. So our approach is take a look at the whole life cycle of cloud solution, cloud technology. So it's just like the traditional technology adoption life cycle. And you can see this is on the right side, this is the traditional bell curve, different stages along the timeline. And we want to take this approach to look at the cloud. So in other words, if we look at it, it's sort of like a circle. And you can see traditionally we have 4 stages to the circle: plan, launch, adopt, and optimize. And based on our engagement experience with different types of clients, large size, small size, medium, and it turns out we need sort of like a hierarchy. In other words, it's not a flat structure based on our experience because of the complexity, because of the immaturity of cloud the current environment. So we leverage this and establish a very comprehensive method. It has level 1, it has 3 stages. how do we define strategy? How do we define the operationalization procedures? And the stage 3, how do we mobilize the activities? And this is not waterfall. In other words, they are incremented. It is iterated to go through these stages. So next, I'm going to show you some details on level 2. For the first strategy, we break down into 3 key phases. The first is assess the current state. Basically, is look into the asset environment to identify the pain points, understand the key drivers, and figure out what are the key initiatives are running. And the second step in this approach is the defining the future state. In other words, what is the target state? What should we be in a quarter, in a year, or in 5 years, depending on the time span client wants to do. And with that, we define a point A and a point B. So the next activity is the draw the roadmap. Basically, how do we transform from point A to point B? And I'll give you more details. This is just define the steps each individual stage. Second stage, operationalization. We want to focus on some target areas like security, like the risk. Everybody talks about it. So we initiated some very in-depth targeted investigation on those areas, and we'll draw some conclusions. What are the constraints? What are the key limitations? And what kind of key assumptions we have? And validate these, make sure all these things are straightened out. We have plans to address these things. And then it leads to the POC validation part. But a lot of things, when you do high-level strategy, you have to do very high-level abstract thinking. And over here, we make sure all these concrete things, we went proof of concept and do some prototyping. Make sure we test the water, all the concerns, security-wise, data privacy-wise, all these things are sufficiently addressed, and also we have execution plans to deal with them. The last part is the cloud engineering practices. We actually sort of introduce this practice in our engagement. This applies to engineering disciplines in the cloud activities, the whole life cycle, cloud development life cycle, CDLC, and you will see some details later on. The third stage is to mobilize the activities. Over here, you can see the first thing is the PMO. Basically, we want to establish the governance. How do we manage different activities? How do we look at this holistically from different perspectives and make sure the PMO many different tasks, different projects, different activities in a holistic fashion. Second part is we create the product listings to speed up the onboarding, the project implementation, because a lot of organizations is fairly new or brand new, and we try to help them to utilize different templates, patterns. And also we collected different types of anti-patterns, make sure these pitfalls are well documented through our engagement, and make sure we can guide the client, avoid these pitfalls so we can do things right in the first place. And the last part is the discipline. We establish different types of standards, cloud standards, reference architectures. So this really helps to introduce standards, discipline, practices, and also guide the different practitioners in the engagement so they can do things right, and also utilize different standard approaches in different implementations and execution. And on this slide, you can see some text, because for each one, we prescribe detailed definition, what kind of key goals, and also characteristics for different things. So this helps us to break down into different things and also group different artifacts, templates, checklists, cheat sheets, you name it. And it really helps, in each stage we can focus on our activities, achieve the common goals. On this slide, I'm going to show you some artifacts we built to realize these 9 steps in the code life cycle. The first thing is the current state. Basically, we analyze the as-is state, figure out what is doing well, what is where are the gaps, what is short of expectation, that type of thing. And you can see over here we use the business model and the technology model. So on the left side it is the as-is, and on the right side this is the to be. And we'll break down into this so we can transform or capture different things in different buckets. And we'll leverage the, for example, over here we use industry domain model, depending on what kind of industry you work in or what kind of clients, maybe telecom, financial, or insurance. So that is this kind of domain model to help us to build the business model along these lines. And then we use some reference models from technology side, different types of reference models related to cloud. So these are the cloud reference model to reflect like a software as a service or platform as a service. And I will also use some reference architecture that is really important to deal with different like multi-tenancy in this paradigm. And the EA model, traditional enterprise architecture model, are used to describe different artifacts, different domains of concern in this stage. And with that, we utilize different techniques. And, you will see some more details run out here. I just introduced this one. This is a radar chart to actually analyze different models along different dimensions. So here we can create a chart to sort of describe where we are today and what is our next stage, and also the benchmark. This is a bubble chart to do cost-benefit quality analysis. We can see the cost over here, and this along this side is the key benefit, and also the size of a bubble shows the quality of individual applications. And for this one, it's a little bit tiny. This basically is a future reference architecture for a particular domain. So you can see, it's sort of like tiered with different tiers. It's just for illustration. And on this one is the roadmap, basically, with the current state assessment and the future state definition. We're going to define multi-generation plan. And you can see with different generations, with the iteration, the organization can move from point A to point B. So that is about the strategy part. And next, let's look at the second stage, which is operationalization. And over here, as I said, first stage is do some SWOT analysis, leverage some cloud patterns to analyze some key areas. This chart actually will analyze the key risks in the cloud assessment. You can see it's color-coded, so we can position different items in these areas and focus on these key areas. We need to spend more time looking for these particular items. And next one is the basically, what kind of options we have. And with that, we can do some proof of concept, proof of technology, with the validation. I listed some of the things here. You can see first thing is replatforming options. Basically, if we have some siloed service, how do we consolidate it? How do we virtualize it? And examples like VMware predominant technology from open source space, we have Zen, hypervisor, and also from Microsoft platform, Hyper-V. And another thing is like if we need to deal with storage, every organization, large or small, we have to store different data, different customer data, documents, content, structured, unstructured. What are the options available? Like Amazon S3, they actually store more than 450 billion objects per day, and Microsoft has Azure. So I'm not going to go through this. Basically, these are the sort of like different options to look at the current paradigm. How we can identify cloud alternatives to minimize the risk, lower the cost, or revamp our current IT portfolio. And the next item is the cloud engineering. Again, it's a sort of a separate topic, but it actually involves a lot of key things. You can go to the internet, search cloud engineering. It is starting the infancy stage, but we emphasize model-driven cloud development. We emphasize iterative, integrated, iterative incremental development for cloud solutions. So there's some pieces to show here. So let's move to the last stage, mobilization. And over here you can see the PMO approach. We emphasize the governance model, and with the governance process, establish different organizing structures. It can be the architecture oversight board, center of excellence, and it can be different work groups or work tracks dealing with different type of things managed. And over here you can see the basically the prioritized list, and it's a little bit small, but basically break down into different areas and with different time zones, so we can position different activities and also newly established initiatives in this chart, so we can identify which one should go first, and also identify dependencies among different activities. And the last piece is the cloudification discipline. We establish the certification process. Here, actually we have a combination of different things. One is from skill set retooling perspective, we establish certification for different professionals. So they can be certified cloud architect, certified cloud developer, certified cloud tester, that type of thing. Another set is about the different application assets. So we try to build reusable cloud services. So these got to be certified, so they become the certified cloud assets that can be reused internally and externally. So this chart just show you, some of the artifacts we build. Actually, there are a lot. It's highlighted, along this life cycle. We have different things to build to help you to understand the consequence of life cycle impact and how do we address different things, different stages. And for that, we also build some tools, and those tools basically is a set of toolkits that combines different artifacts we build. The first thing is called the Cloud Opportunity Assessment Tool, which I will give you more details in the next few slides. And the second part is about a road mapping. With this kind of assessment, we understand the suitability and how do we define a road map. And so this is very important. I'm not going to address a lot of the things, just simply mention this because it is a separate session to talk about the details of this tool. In terms of the second stage operationalization, we build a tool called Grid. It deals with different types of activities, and also we build quite a number of assets to help you to institutionalize different things, activities, and also sort of like operationalize the cloud execution. And the last part is the 10, which has different PMO activities, how do we establish a governance model, how do we accelerate the onboarding, and how do we leverage process-driven activities to drive the cloudification discipline. So as I said, in the next few slides, I'm going to focus on this one about the code, which is focused, how do we assess the suitability of cloud, a big, large organization, or maybe a small organization, how they can take advantage of cloud and move the data center to cloud space or leverage software as a service rather than host everything internally. Now, this is a chart I pulled from ISACA. They did a survey last year and basically asked the audience, what do you think about the benefit and the risk of using cloud? As you can see, 45% of people think, okay, risks are more than benefits. And 70% of people think benefits are more than, so a very small fraction of people think benefits are more than risk. And 38% think they are balanced. You can can see there are a lot of risks, at least by the perception. There are a lot of risks associated with using or adopting cloud. It will need some very comprehensive, unbiased assessment, which can give you very objective analysis to figure out should we do it or should we not do it. I'll give you a few examples. Everybody uses email, and this is a very good summary of some of the activities to leverage the Google app, part of the Google app called Gmail, and the Google Doc. Basically, Gmail is about the email, and Google Doc is about productivity tools. It's like Microsoft Office suite. You can see three public sector agent organizations. City of Los Angeles, they actually migrated thousands of users. City of Orlando and the city of Washington D.C. And these three organizations did a very in-depth assessment, compare the risk, compare the cost, and they choose to utilize Google Apps to replace their existing email accounts, the email application. On the other hand, another public sector organization, UC Davis, they did a very interesting analysis and comparison. Actually, they did some proof of concept. And turned out that they saw that the risk is high and they cannot get it satisfied. They actually turned it down. You can see this is not a black and white selection or choice. Really, you have to look at it holistically from different angles to figure out should we do it or not do it. On this slide, I combined a couple of reports from Gartner and Information Week. Now, basically, we identified some key challenges. On top, you can see the risk, how sound the vendor solution is, and what about the performance in terms of throughput and response time. And what is the return on investment, total cost of ownership of a cloud. And the last thing, and I think this is a very interesting thing, is about control. Because you have the cloud vendor involved, it becomes a core ownership, and we don't want to see any single point. So this is a critical part in cloud adoption and assessment. And of course, security probably one of the top two concerns if we talk to any organization about cloud adoption or cloud usage. And most of these are related data. Where is data related? But there are regulations about the data cannot go out of country or cannot be fed to another continent. How do we port the data? What is data lost? What about data privacy? Something like social security number, the health information, medical image, financial data, that type of thing. So we have to deal with these kind of challenges. Because if we do not have answers or sound answers to these things, really, it goes nowhere for us to use cloud. And that is what this cloud assessment is about. Here's the definition of this, and plus I provide some attributes about this particular tool. We try to assess the suitability to see how cloud is good or is not good for the organization. And we want to understand that the different capabilities in the cloud. We break down into some specific key cloud capabilities. We can understand not just as a whole for cloud. Actually, we need to look into some specific tracks and streams. And also with that, we can define some very high-level strategic migration plans as a blueprint and figure out how we can maximize the usage of cloud to realize the business value. The key goals for this tool, three parts. One is we want to build a foundation so we can help the organization understand what does it mean, what cloud means to them, and what kind of impact from technology perspective and also from business perspective. The second part is to jumpstart. So when we figure out cloud does fit the whole paradigm or part of the organization, we need to figure out how do we speed it up, how do we identify the entry point. So we can identify some low-hanging fruit and build some things that's tangible, and also test the water, pave the way for larger scale adoption. And finally, is the how do we define priorities? There's a lot of infra projects, a lot of activities, different divisions, different teams, groups. How do we list these infra projects with what do we want to achieve by leveraging cloud? From benefits perspective, first is the basically the tools can help you or help the clients to figure out how do we enable the capabilities of cloud in the real world project. And secondly is how do we align IT with business? So for a lot of vertical industry sectors, this is always a big challenge for us. How do we align IT with the business side, realize their value, and help them to achieve their goals? And actually, cloud can help a lot, and this assessment tool can help to sort of quantify the business benefits. And of course, the last part is the cost. I think it is probably the most visible and important indicator, and cloud really provides this. And with the code, I'll show you when we do analysis. One of the big parts is the total cost of ownership, and actually we have quantitative measures to reflect this. So now let's see how do we do it. How should we do this comprehensively, systematically? Now first, we want to take a very comprehensive approach, which is actually hybrid. So we realize through our exercise, neither of the top-down and bottom-up approach work. So we take this approach, basically from top-down, we want to look at it from one dimension, expand it to multiple dimensions when we look at the suitability. And secondly, on top-down approach, we want to move from start from qualitative approach, and then we want to figure out, what is the quantitative measure that can help us to generate some scores and figure out, do some, by number, doing some comparison. From bottom-up perspective, we want to look at the existing environment for every organization, particularly, the medium-sized and large organizations. We already have a very large IT footprint, whether it's heterogeneous or pretty good, but we're not going to throw this away by replacing them with cloud. It does not work. We have to look at the brown view and figure out how do we strategically construct, rapid and modify, cloudify them, and to build a business capability. And also we want to define different granularities here. So from bottom up, we want to identify the fine grain structure and then realize the cost behind the business functionalities and operations. So this is the approach we do in a hierarchy approach. We start from the top level, enterprise level. Basically, over there, we want to look at the business-driven capability, look at the alignment between IT and the business. Then we zoom into specific line of business. So, for example, if we look at a bank, so the top one is the whole bank. Different banking activities, can be loans, can be credit cards, can be ATMs, can be branches. Then specifically at the domain level, let's say maybe for retail, for the consumers, we use write a check, we use credit cards. So this is particular specific capabilities at this level. Then we look at the portfolio level. It is very technology driven. So we're moving from the line of business capabilities to technology functionality, whether we use network capabilities to connect the ATM machine, whether we provide an online presence to e-commerce. So this is very focused on the technology part, but it's still away from the specific project. So we look at the portfolio view of a set of things. And the bottom part is the, can be a particular service or a particular system application. And we try to do very in-depth analysis for specific things, figure out the aptness of cloud with particular paradigm. And we build a set of tools to deal with each individual layer here. So at top, at enterprise level. I'll show you actually next few slides. We'll go through these things one by one. The top one, we use the maturity level to assess the organization at the enterprise level. Then the domain level, we have a tool to assess the domain capability. And the portfolio level, we actually view 360-degree view about the different types of things in a particular portfolio. And the last place, we create a suitability scorecard, which quantitatively assess the aptness of cloud at the application level. So let's take a look at them one by one in the next few slides. The first is the top layer, and we created what is called a cloud maturity model. You can see this is very similar to CMMI model. On top, we define 5 layers over here. And basically over here, I put a focus here. So level 1 is basically functionality. Level 2, we will emphasize the cost effectiveness. And level 3, we try to be more nimble and responsive to the business side. Level 4 becomes more adaptive because with dynamic world, nobody can put everything. From IT perspective, we try to be adaptive to the business changes. And the last stage, basically, we want to leverage automation to make sure I will say, semi-automated to start with, and move it onto the fully automated in terms of like provisioning of cloud resources, that type of thing. I'm going to skip the benefits and the success factors. Here we break down into 3 areas because we realize our activities and the real-world engagement just do one cloud probably is too abstract. So break it down into software, platform, and infrastructure. And let me just do one thing. Let's take a look at this one. We don't have time to go through everything. So from software perspective, and at stage 1, basically, a lot of organizations pretty much have a web-based application, allow customers to access their service or products often through web browser. And there are some ad hoc activities. Maybe they're using web services. Maybe they're using some middleware doing integration. Maybe they start implementing ESP. So that's typical in a lot of organizations. And in stage 2, we'll try to find some collaboration application area. This is the starting point to see, for example, how do we deal with email? Do we still use Exchange, Lotus Notes, in-house? And what about productivity tools? Most organizations are using Microsoft Office Suite. And also about development. Most organizations use internal development labs and pretty much, dedicated servers. So this area is the very good starting point to see how we can have software as service rather than put everything on premise. Next stage, we'll look into some ERP areas, like customer relationship management. How do we deal with finance? What about, leverage Workday to deal with HR? And of course, the CRM, like we have things like Salesforce.com. On this stage, basically we'll try to see how do we leverage the cloud for B2B activities. So you can see the previous things pretty much internal. Now in the B2B paradigm, nowadays a lot of activities we need to work with our partners. We need to work in the supply chain domain to figure out. And that's the next thing, how to integrate it together. The final stage in the software as a service track is the zero software. Basically, we don't want to own any software. We want to rent. We want to maybe get something, subscribe something, and if we don't need it, we just unsubscribe or we just suspend it or whatever. In other words, we don't want to install any software in-house, even on the laptop. This way, this is purely dynamic, purely software as a service, and a purely utility computing model. I'm going to skip the rest of the platform infrastructure. Let's go to the next one, which is stage actually level 2 at the domain level. So this is particular about, as I mentioned, like the banking industry. The maturity model will measure the whole bank. How do we look at those three-dimensional software infrastructure platform and figure out what kind of level are we at today, and then move on to the next level or next two levels. And this one is a particular things like in a bank, let's say it's a retail banking. How do we deal with the consumer? So over here, as I mentioned previously, we talked about business model and the technology model and leverage these things. So one thing I want to show you is we actually utilize a three-dimensional model to deal with this. The one here is called the decomposition, basically different types of models. Secondly is the architecture framework for design. And the last day is the process framework for delivery, these three. And for each one of these, we have better models because we look at the traditional way we design service, design applications, design systems. They are not sufficient. Just to give you one example, from model perspective, probably see some of the things in existing like a logical model, conceptual model, physical model. But in our practice in cloud, we realize these are not sufficient. We actually have to expand it. We actually create extended framework starting with meta model, domain model actually deal with this kind of domain, this level. And it's a portfolio model, which is actually next stage, and also the contextual execution model. So with this kind of augmentation, we can fully address what needs to be done in the cloud space and how do we leverage the past experience and reuse these things in our cloud activity. This is the portfolio level. We saw this earlier, and I'll give you more details in this chart. Basically, we break down into, number one, into four perspectives. So it's design time, transition time, runtime, and the last time. You can see along these lines, let's take a look at the design time. We define different aspects. Over here, let's just look at the modeling tools and so on. And depending on the organization needs, their drivers, their pain points, we can adjust. Not necessarily these three dimensions. We can add more dimensions. We can change this dimension. So with this one, we sort of like look at these semi-quantitative ways. So there's a score here. So you can define a scale here is 1 to 5. And we also define the current state for, let's say, for modeling, which is 0.5. And this is the future state we want to be, 2. And also, we have the sort of a leading practice as a benchmark in the industry. So you can say, okay, this is the vertical industry. This is sort of the standard benchmark scores. Or you can look at the whole industry. It doesn't matter in the vertical or horizontal. What does other people do to it? So this one, you can identify your weak link. So for example, I think the modeling over here, the weak link, right? So most people are 3, we are 0.5. And if we look at this one, our score is 0.5, and most of the industry is about 3. So service level agreement. Really we need to look at. So this really helps you to, assess the portfolios along these 4 perspectives and identify some key aspects, and also figure out, what areas should we look, what are the weak links, and then we can figure out, the justification, the cloud help on it. Maybe cloud help on modeling, service level agreement, cloud may help, may not. So this actually helps us to do some very initial analysis and diagnosis, and figure out, what areas should we look into further. Now, at the bottom layer, the application level, this is the template we use to sort of profile a particular application. Again, I just sort of extract a part of it. It's actually we have a template which is a very big sheet with a lot of things. Basically, when we capture this, try to identify the domain, the status. Here's something about a guide. How do we capture these information, type, and other things. So this basically, is a standard format to document the key characteristics and attributes of a particular application. And with that, we create what is called a Cloud Suitability Scorecard. You can see over here, we define 4 themes: quality, technology, capability, and usage. and with some key questions answered. And over here, we have raw score, so 1 to 10. So depending on which one, you can put a score there. And weight is basically to determine how important or what kind of priority should we put on these individual aspects. And you have a weight score over here, and here's the total. So for this one, for each application, as I showed you the last chart, we have the standard format to capture this information. And this really gives us a score in terms of the cloud suitability for this particular application. And for each application, we generate scores for each of these applications, and we can do some comparison. And with that score, if we identify a subset of applications that really near to the high scores, which means that they are very much cloudable, and we do some further analysis. I mentioned this earlier, total cost of ownership. This is actually the chart breaks down into year 1 to 5, and along the software platform operation cost on this. And you can see, if we use cloud, what is the total benefit? What kind of annual benefit along this? And what is the total cost if we do not do this? So this gives you a very quantitative approach to figure out, what is the cost of reduction and where are the cost of avoidance. I showed you this diagram earlier. Cost benefit with the cost, we can do cost benefit analysis. Is the cost. The right side is the benefit, business benefit, and the size actually show you the quality of this any particular application. And on this chart, it's a breakdown of the KPI, key performance indicator, and we have some themes defined here. And on the left side, we're leveraging the wire models to quantify different types of financial data. And also this helps us to define different things like service level agreement, what is the revenue efficiency, that type of thing. So this gives you, the further look about the different characteristics and attributes of particular application set for different types of things. So we can figure out, from cloudification perspective, does it make sense? Does it realize our business goals? Does it realize our financial objectives? And what kind of risk do we have, and how do we further look into this? And some best practices over here. So how do we, on the left side is basically, if we figure out, these subset of applications are really cloudifiable, and how do we boost the readiness? We have some lines up for here. And also, how do we identify critical success factors? And it's really important because, doing this kind of exercise, you can identify some low-hanging fruit. Really, we also need to look at some very important pieces, like, the workload. What is the workload for the application? Maybe it's through the financial analysis, maybe it's through some risk analysis. They are very suitable. But, if the workload is constant and it will not go up and down, and you probably, you're good with some dedicated servers. But if not, how do we deal with spikes? How do we deal with different hits from different geos? And really, this really, further confirms, are they suitable for cloudification among those that has been selected, that has been evaluated and diagnosed. Next, I'm going to show you some sort of like examples, and this is coding action. First, you can see, as I mentioned before, each of these individual applications will have scores, right? So we use the Suitability Scorecard and get these scores. And we can position those scores. Actually, in this I show you this one. We have a tool, which once you have scores you put in, it actually generates the chart automatically to give you sort of visual where are they positioned. So on the horizontal side, these are the scores, and you can set a threshold cut. In other words, if the score is below this threshold, probably they are not suitable for cloudification. And secondly, here is the business impact of these applications. So with this one, we can quickly identify, okay, application 146. These applications has very high scores, and also they have very high business impact. These are low-hanging fruit. In other words, 146 should look into real quick to see are they low-hanging fruits, and we do something real quick to either cloud enable them or transform them to cloud applications or services. Second batch is application 3 and 9. 3 has high scope but a medium impact on business side, and application 9, the score is just above the threshold, but it has fairly medium to high business impact. So these are the short-term targets we're looking into. And application 5 and 7, the scores are not so high, and given that we are above threshold, business impact are low to medium. So in the near term, maybe we want to revisit them and look into them further. So this actually helps you to sort of visually quickly identify low-hanging fruits and what are the key target applications or services we need to investigate further, and maybe do some sort of further cloudification proof of concept. On this chart, you can see we talk about a lot of things on the left side, right? The current state model, and we leverage like maturity model. We do different types of assessment, 360, suitability scorecard, and we do gap finding assessment. I mentioned the competitive analysis with SWOT, risk mitigation. How do we deal with this kind of risk in terms of security, in terms of financial risk, in terms of vendor dominance from the risk solution provider perspective. So with that, we actually create what is called the code, cloud optimization decision engine. So we'll feed this into the engine, and we'll try to figure out, and this engine help us to identify whether cloud will work or not work. And I tell us to look at the right side. It's not, as I mentioned earlier, it's not a black and white. So we define a set of Cloudability Spectrum. So maybe, after assessment, we say, yes, for this particular domain, we need to fully adopt it. And maybe we say, okay, yeah, for this portfolio, maybe it's as needed. In other words, the conditions are here. We cannot make our decision right now. As we move on, we need to further evaluate the different assumptions, conditions, constraints, limitations, and figure out if it's needed. So there are different things over here. In other words, it's not a black and white, and this really helps to give the sort of like the end user or the client, if you are consultant, what should we do based on these things. And on this slide, show you this is sort of like a workflow. In other words, along this line, and you can see, we already see a lot of different tools, different scorecards, different diagnosis things, and this gives you sort of like a workflow. How do we make a decision? How do we reach a decision point to justify the trade-offs and make a decision to move on to the next stage? So I'll give you an example here. First, in your business situation, vertical. In other words, are you in financial? Are you in telecom or insurance? That are not necessarily, you should not do cloud if you're not vertical. But from that perspective, if you're vertical, that's probably the best place to take a look at, your business process. And then move on to if you're implementation, outsourcing. Are you using outsourcing, or do you consider the application outsourcing, hosting outsourcing, business process outsourcing, or strategy outsourcing? There is a variety of things. I'm going to go to the detail, but I did give you some view. How do we, depending on what's going on here, and then move to the next route over here, or we say, okay, yeah, let's move to the next stage. And further on, doing this one, or doing additional information for us to figure out, what the next step should we go. So this gives you this is actually part of the implementation, as I mentioned, the decision engine on the last slide, and utilize several sort of like a decision tree. It's just one example. Figure out this particular customer scenario, what kind of steps we need to take. And it also helps. The tool helps the people who run these things do the assessment, ask the right questions, solicit the data, and figure out, what things should we talk about. Is it a joint decision, and how do we move to the next stage? All right. So let's come into a quick summary. We'll talk about quite a few things in this particular tool. Basically, as I mentioned earlier, we started with the what is called a CAD, Cloud Adoption Lifecycle Framework. You can see we have the stages, and then we talk about the code, which is specifically for the code, Cloud Opportunity Assessment Tool. This one does very systematic assessment on different levels, 4 levels. And then, we have a tool called the Cloud Adoption Roadmap tool. I don't have time to address this one. This one actually, based on this kind of decision assessment thing, is further define the to-be target state and also define the different routes in the multi-generation plan. So altogether, helps client to build a winning strategy and the multi-generation roadmap. But put some this lifestyle, what it is, what kind of characteristics, key benefits, who are the major players, where can we use it, the usage scenarios, and how we can do it. As a matter of fact, this is the Discover Investing Map Enabled. Is the guide, is the approach to deal with it. I'm going to show you some things as a recap. We talk about this lifecycle model of 3 stages: strategy, operationalization, and mobilization. And each stage will break down into 3 steps, baby steps to deal with that. And with that, from the strategy perspective, we'll break down into 2 parts. One is the code, basically is the assessment of the opportunity. And we'll talk about these 4 layers. We'll set up tools here. And as a matter of fact, we'll address this later. So under here is the, after assessment, we do the road mapping. And over here, actually, it's too small, but this card structure actually breaks down to over here. And that is actually the style, DIME, because we'll discover over here, investigate, map, and enable. So this process, we clearly define what kind of key objectives, what kind of inputs we need, prerequisites, what kind of activities each stage we need to do, what kind of deliverables we need to produce, and also the timeline checkpoint over here. So this is a very systematic process to do these kind of things in the road mapping exercise. Now back to this one, I showed you the maturity model. We utilize that along the software, platform, and infrastructure to deal with the enterprise level. And then we use the model-driven examination to investigate the domain model. And at the portfolio level, we use the radar chart along the design time, transition time, runtime, and lifetime to investigate different aspects at that level. At the bottom level is the suitability scorecard. We quantify the suitability and take out for each individual application how suitable they are, and also the additional features I show you to, once we have this sort of filtered out, to further investigate the aptness of individual services to see if we are cloudable, and also how do we cloudify these things. That's all I have. We have probably just like 1 or 2 minutes. If there's any questions, please feel free. If there are any questions over here. I don't know if the phone line is open to participants or not, but if you want to type here in the chat, I'll be glad to maybe address 1 or 2 questions here. Anybody? Any questions, comments, thoughts? Do you see any questions or anywhere? I didn't see anything from the chat. But anyway, if you look at here, my email is here. I just highlight it. It's Tony Chen at thelive.com. So feel free, send me email. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, any question you have. It's a very intensive session. Talk about a lot of things, and I know the quite a few components we have. We don't have to address that. Maybe another session, another time. So feel free. Give me some feedback, and I look forward to seeing you somewhere sometime. Thank you for participating. This concludes the session. Bye.